You guys are used to us breaking down hero RB, double hero RB, zero RB, but today we're breaking down the hero wide receiver strategy, which is a strategy that this year in particular seems very, very appealing and is probably one of the most optimal ways that you guys can play your fantasy football drafts. To give you guys an idea of what hero wide receiver would entail, you get your shot at a dominant PPR 20 plus point per game upside wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. Ideally, you grab one guy and punt off wide receiver for the next 2, 3, 4 rounds, filling out a couple of running backs, maybe a quarterback or a tight end. And then round 5, round 6, round 7 and beyond, you kind of catch up at the wide receiver position. And the main reason why this is so alluring is honestly just the way that current ADP is stacked up right now.
Yeah, and some of you may be wondering, why would you run a hero wide receiver strategy? I mean, you guys have gone on record before, talked about how important the wide receiver position is. The basis of the strategy hinges on acknowledging the difference in league winner rate between the round 3 wide receivers versus, the round 6, round 7, round 8 wide receivers, and understanding that the difference there is negligible versus looking at the quarterback, running back, and tight end league winners and understanding that the majority of them come in those first 4 rounds. Hero wide receiver understands that you do need an alpha in that wide receiver 1 spot, but focuses on surrounding that hero with other lottery ticket shots when league winners at the other positions are so concentrated in the early rounds. 73% of quarterback league winners are found in the top 4 rounds. 81% of running back league winners are found in the top 4 rounds, and 64% of the league winners at tight end are found in the top 4 rounds, versus at wide receiver, only 58% of them are found in this range.
Yeah, not to mention 42% of that coming in the first 2 rounds. We've gotten very efficient at pricing wide receivers with elite upside. The reason that this strategy may not have made so much sense a couple of years ago is because I use this example in the double hero RB video. You could get second-year Justin Jefferson at the top of the 3rd round. You could get breakout candidates, like really, really high-end breakout candidates in the 3rd, in the 4th, in the 5th round of fantasy. And we've seen the last couple of years, you're just simply not getting that type of discount. If this was 4 years ago, Ladd McConkey would be going in round 4, and you'd be able to, justify taking him there, knowing that you don't have to spend a top 1, top 2 round pick on him. So knowing that when you combine the round 3 through round 7 league winner rate at the wide receiver position, it only equals 34% of the league winning wide receivers coming from that territory. It does really re-emphasize that you can grab CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, one of these hero wide receiver guys in round 1, and then grab 2 running backs, grab 3 running backs even, grab an elite quarterback, grab an elite tight end, and then come round 6, round 7, when the wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, and tight ends start to blend together, those elite top 4 mobile quarterbacks are off the board. Those top 3 elite tight ends are off the board. Then you circle back to the wide receiver position. Then you start filling out Jaden Reeds and Rome Odunze's and Chris Godwin's and Chris Olave's and whoever's still on the board for you at that point. Because realistically, like you just made reference to, the difference between a round 3, round 4, round 5 wide receiver and a round 6, round 7 wide receiver isn't as big as it maybe seems on the clock.
Yeah, and the reason why that's the case, the reason why hero wide receiver, in my opinion, may very well end up being the optimal strategy in 2025, just simply comes down to the distorted value in early wide receivers versus early running backs in relation to their opportunity cost. Strategies in the past, zero RB and hero running back, they became a staple because the concept was zigging while others in your league zag. You thrived on running backs being pushed up the board, people striving on fear of missing out, not wanting to lead their first 2 rounds without 2 secured running backs, and you were profiting off of that because the elite wide receivers were falling to you. But as we see, more and more wide receivers now are going inside of the top 50 in ADP, and less running backs have gone inside of the top 50. 2023 and 2024 represented the least amount of running backs being selected in the top 50 since 2016. If you guys recall, 2016, that was a year removed from the running back massacre in the 2015 season, where 8 of the top 12 running backs in fantasy points per game missed 4 or more games.
Yeah, that year, we saw the running back position really correct itself, and people were like, okay, running backs are dead. They get injured too much. And it was a big overreaction to what actually took place during the fantasy football season that 2015 year. But again, if you guys look on this table right now, you can see how plentiful the depth is of wide receiver on home league sites. Like, for those of you guys that play on Underdog, you probably it just won't compute to you, because when you have to take wide receivers as high as you have to take them on Underdog, you don't get that it's possible that Josh Downs is pick 113 on home league sites, that Brandon Ayuk's pick 117, that Emeka Egbuka's pick 122 on home league sites, you can see on the right side of this column on this table, that's our ranking, FSC ranking in yellow there, versus the ADP of Yahoo, Sleeper, ESPN, NFL, and Underdog included, all combined together. So the fact that you could see all that value, anything in green, means it's a huge discrepancy between where we have them ranked and where the home league ADP is right now. You can see all that depth of wide receiver value. Running back selectivity has leaked into home leagues. People have been not pushing up the running back position nearly as much as they used to. The one thing that has not quite transitioned into home leagues yet is that thirst for wide receiver that you see round 5, round 6, round 7, round 8. You're not going to see Trey Harris go in the 8th round or the 9th round of your home league, but you will see him go in the 8th or the 9th round of an Underdog draft, because on Underdog, wide receivers fly off the board 15, 20 picks earlier in that rounds 5 to 9 range specifically than they do on home league sites. Part of that's because it's a 3 wide receiver start, but another part of that is just because the wide receiver position is so highly valued in that format.
Yeah, in the last 2 seasons, after 7 of 8 years, where top 50 selected wide receivers crushed top 50 selected running backs in terms of win rate, we saw the gap close in 2023, and it was downright jumped by the running backs in 2024.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not like there was a ton more wide receivers being selected in the top 50. In fact, there was actually relatively normal rates of wide receivers being selected there. It's just that when you're taking the 15th best running back off the board at the 51st overall pick in the 5th round or whatever, you're going to have a much better chance of hitting on that pick than when you had to usually take that running back in the top 3 rounds or the top 2 rounds back in 2020, back in 2017 or whatever. We saw 15 running backs go in the top 20 picks. And despite this, man, running backs are still valued nearly the same. Drafters are still selective. Rather than being scared of missing out on the running back position, the balance of power has shifted dramatically. People are actually willing to bypass the running back that doesn't project as good as the wide receiver. Like they never used to be able to do that before. Usually it was like, well, I don't want to be starting, guy who's on a terrible offense, who's the only, remaining starter of the NFL. There's 32 NFL teams. You got to get, all these running backs. We got to get the starter for every NFL team. That doesn't really exist anymore. People are like, I'll get running back production later. I'll stream the waiver wire. I'll make a trade. I'll prioritize getting one of these guys in the late rounds. Like people are less scared to lose running backs, fear of missing out.
Of course, Corey, it's just simple math. There's 64 or 96 starting wide receivers and only 32 starting running backs.
Yeah, exactly. We know that's never been how it worked. It was always at the top 12, top 15 running backs in the NFL for the starting NFL teams was usually going to be better than the rest of the league because people deploy committees. Some running backs aren't as good as other running backs. There's guys that are fighting it out for the starting job that we don't always know who's going to end up coming out on top there. And part of this, you guys might be thinking that we're overcorrecting by drafting running backs highly like we used to back in 2015, 2016, 2017. But we're not actually doing that. The market isn't all of a sudden now taking 26 running backs in the top 50 again.
The reason why we're drafting running backs high now is the market is a lot sharper than it used to be. Hey, guess what? When the market was overvaluing these running backs, pushing it up the board, you had guys like Ron, you had guys like us, you had a lot of content creators say, hey, listen, I don't agree with people viewing it as running backs are scarce and pushing these guys up the board just because of the position they played. That was the major ideology that has shifted in the last few years is, like you said, people are a lot more selective now instead of having that fear of missing out. People are willing to bypass running back early more than they've ever been.
Yeah, and bringing this all the way back to hero wide receiver, it means that on the clock, because ultimately the best draft strategy is taking the best projection. That's always the best draft strategy. When you're on the clock, you actually have to be like, oh, maybe I should take this running back in the 4th round. When before it was like, of course, he doesn't project as good as this wide receiver that's going here. So again, we haven't overcorrected. There's still only 16 running backs going in the top 50 of ADP right now on Underdog and 18 in multi-site ADP. This makes it so that you can actually get nice running back options in rounds 2, in rounds 3, in rounds 4. And as the league winner rates suggest that we talked about at the beginning of this video, it's actually a higher rate of drafting a league winner at running back rounds 2 through 5 even than it is at drafting one at wide receiver. So you're actually getting a good reason to not draft a wide receiver there, knowing that you can get your hero where the league winner rates are very high in the 1st round, in the 2nd round, and then you can fill out your running back position, deviate maybe for an elite quarterback who, by the way, in round 3 absolutely crush their ADP usually. And then again, backfill round 5, 6, 7, 8, grab those wide receivers, and you can get your needle movers at running back, at quarterback, maybe at tight end in that rounds 2 through 4 range. It's almost, it's not the wide receiver dead zone, but it's kind of almost becoming this territory, especially in rounds 3 or 4, where profiles who maybe don't, project as good as the round 1 and 2 wide receivers get pushed up the board a little bit, and they don't quite have the ceiling level that those round 1 and 2 wide receivers do.
Exactly. And it's evident based on the league winner rates. We see at wide receiver 21%, 21% in the first 2 rounds. You are very much able to find players that can hit that 19 plus, 20 plus, 21 plus point per game outlook in the first 2 rounds, but it drops over half in each round outside of round 4, which I'm sure there's like some skewed data, like maybe like a Jamar Chase year or some bullshit like that. That's probably skewing a little bit of that. But regardless, we do see the majority of league winners, 42% of them at wide receiver, come in those first 2 rounds. So people might be asking, well, what exactly would a successful hero wide receiver draft look like in 2025? The way I would kind of blueprint it, if you guys are watching at home thinking, how would I conduct this? Your elite wide receiver has to be selected within the first 2 rounds. If you're picking at the top of the draft, that is, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, guys like that, those needle moving elite studs that we have. If you're picking at the back half of the first round, I really would only say, if you can get one of the top 8 or 9 or so wide receivers in ADP, maybe a cutoff at like Drake London if you really believe in him, but probably more so at the Amon or St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors range at that back half of the first round. You get one of those guys, you pair them with one of the running backs in that range. So let's just say it's a Devon Achane or an Ashton Genty. And then you have planned attacks at running back, tight end, and quarterback in the next 3 or 4 rounds. You are not taking your second wide receiver till, in my opinion, at least round 5. And the reason being, like we kind of explained, what realistically, truly, how big of a discrepancy is there between an early round 3 T. Higgins versus a round 5 George Pickens? Like, sure, I prefer T. Higgins, but realistically, their range of outcomes is very similar.
Yeah, not to mention the other underrated part about like round 5, round 6 being, when you start taking wide receivers again, is you might have guys ranked in the 3rd or the 4th round that fall to round 5 and round 6, because after you get outside of, let's say, BTJ, Drake London, AJ Brown, Ladd McConkey, those guys, some people might have a different top end. Some people would love Marvin Harrison Jr. Some people would love Devontae Adams. Some people would love Mike Evans. Some people love Tyreek Hill. Some people love T. Higgins or whatever. And then after that too, like, who's your wide receiver 19? Like maybe it's Xavier Worthy. Then you go down. Maybe some people think it's Jameson Williams. Some people think it's Devontae Smith. Like I'm really high on Devontae Smith. Like maybe it's Travis Hunter for someone like you who's obsessed with Travis Hunter. So there's a lot of variance in that range anyways. So the guy that you like in round 4 might be there in round 5, round 6 anyways, after you've already filled out the positions that are a little bit more scarce, do have higher league winner rates in that territory of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, basically what it comes down to is the wide receivers 12 to 20 are as close as it's been in a while. And the wide receivers, I would say 2021 to wide receiver even 33 is as close as it's been in a while. So if there's not a discernible difference between those ranges, why not just take them at positions where there is discernible difference, where there is a big time difference between drafting a round 3 George Kittle versus a round 5 Sam Laporta, between drafting a round 3 Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, versus drafting a round 5 Joe Burrow. Like there is a starker difference in terms of the ultimate upside at the other positions than there is at wide receiver, because we tend to push those wide receiver profiles up the board.
Yeah, and the other thing about this strategy too is that you might be kind of drafting this strategy without knowing it if you're just using our rankings, because we have those elite quarterbacks ranked as such because they are tier breaks. We have those elite tight ends ranked as such because they are tier breaks. We have the running backs even in that territory, the Hamptons, the Halls, the guys that actually do still have that upside ranked over the Terry McLaurins of the world, ranked over the Devontae Smiths and those type of guys, that there aren't a huge discernible difference between, my wide receiver 21, Devontae Smith, and my wide receiver 32, Rome Odunze or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. But Corey, can you run down maybe the settings that would differ in terms of where hero wide receiver might be more viable, maybe less viable? Just kind of give the people an outlook as to maybe the league format that you would want to conduct this in.
Yeah. So hero wide receiver is going to be less effective the more receivers you have to start, especially in 3 wide receiver leagues. Like if you have to start 3 wide receivers, there's a reason people don't really do 3 wide receiver or hero wide receiver starts on Underdog, is because you have to start 3 wide receivers, even though it's a best ball format. So if you play in a league that's a bog standard, half PPR, start 7, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, hero wide receiver is probably going to be pretty effective because A, in a half PPR, you'd probably want to be starting a running back in your flex. And B, you only have to start 2 wide receivers every single week. So a hero wide receiver, you could pretty much fill out most of your starting lineup and then come back to the wide receiver position, grab your Jaden Reeds, grab your Rome Odunzes, grab your Emeka Egbukas, and then you can probably piece together your wide receiver 2 spot, no problem. Whereas in a league where it's a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR, it's like you're probably going to want to start at least 4 wide receivers every single week in a format like that, and you have to start 3. So a hero wide receiver is going to be less advantageous in a format like that. And not only that, too, the later you get in your draft, let's say round 5, round 6, round 7, the wide receivers on the board in a start 7 half PPR are going to be a lot better than the wide receivers that are on the board in a 3 wide receiver, 2 flex full PPR in that territory of the draft.
Yeah, it really just depends. Like knowing your league, projecting what type of wide receiver values are going to fall, you can kind of adapt your strategy. If you know people are going to push wide receiver up the board, maybe instead of grabbing, a second running back, you grab your wide receiver around earlier or vice versa. Like realistically, it just depends on where you think these wide receivers in the mid rounds are going to fall off the board. And if you do think that the depth is plentiful, like you're in a league where Josh Downs might be like the 95th overall pick, at that point, you can kind of push the envelope a little further, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of the strategy, as simple as it sounds, just depends on how late you can get wide receivers. Like if you think you can get great wide receivers round 5, round 6, round 7, round 8, and not just because you've been doing mock drafts and it's worked out that way. I'm saying actual market research on your league, what's happened the last couple of years that you've been in it. Maybe you do some intel on what other people's strategies are going to be. Maybe you use our Flock mock draft simulator, which we're about to use, and you can see that you get good wide receivers. Because I think one of the mistakes that some people make with like a hero wide receiver or going heavy on running backs in general is they go, I'm going to draft running backs early because every time I do mock drafts, I can get like a Emeka Egbuka in round 10. It's like, well, your league mates might not be that dumb to let Emeka Egbuka fall to round 10. So you do need to kind of be aware of what are my league mates going to do as well. Because it can't just be about when I do mock drafts, like it works out best when I go, light at wide receiver. It's like it might, but it might not work that way if your league mates are aware that it's a 3 wide receiver, full PPR or 2 flex league.
Corey, rather than telling the people about the hero wide receiver draft strategy, let's go and show them over on flockfantasy.com.
All right, so moving into the mock draft here, quick shout out, flockfantasy.com. We have a season pass live, $35, August 1 to Jan 1. You have full access to our site. That includes draft guides from us and all the other creators, rankings, all the tools, including the tool that we're about to show you here, which is the mock draft simulator. You can hop into mock draft lobbies. You guys can see these filling up pretty quick. We've had thousands of these going on over the last couple of weeks. Dynasty startups, if you're dynasty players, you can do private drafts that you can send your friends. You can do a draft simulation, which is what Danny and I are about to do because it's just us on here. And you draft against basically our rankings, all the expert rankings there. So we're going to rip 60 seconds, redraft, full PPR, 12 team, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex as we usually do. But again, the less wide receivers you have to start, let's say it's a 1 flex, 2 wide receiver, half PPR, the better this strategy is actually going to work out for you, like I said, during the strategy portion. But we'll rip into the mock draft and we'll get everything going here. All right, so the draft is underway. Danny's going to be picking from the 105. I'm going to be picking from the 111. Again, we're going to execute a hero wide receiver, which means we're going to get our anchor either in round 1 or in round 2. And then we're going to kind of fade the wide receiver position a little bit till about round 5-ish or so and fill out some running backs, maybe an elite onesie if we get one falling to us. So Danny, I know CeeDee Lamb went, which is probably who you were hoping would fall to you, but I would imagine you're going to go JJ in this situation.
Yeah, so I technically do have Puka 1 spot higher, but I know for a lot of you guys out here, Justin Jefferson might very well be your wide receiver too. So for the purpose of the exercise, I will slot in Justin Jefferson. Again, if we hear more positive about his hamstring and the negative drumbeat continues on Stafford, I will actually end up flipping them back. But whether it's Puka, whether it's Jefferson, whether it's Lamb, I think they're very good candidates to be your hero wide receiver.
For sure. Yeah. And I get a couple of my hero wide receivers that I would have liked in the first round sniped ahead of me with Puka Nacua and Malik Neighbors. So I'm going to grab a running back here and hope that I can get a BTJ or a Collins or something falling back to me and I can build around those wide receivers at that point in time. So I'll grab Devon Achane to kind of be my anchor running back. And Brian Thomas Jr. does fall back to me, who's my highest ranked wide receiver. And again, a quick shout out if you guys are on the site and you're just a free subscriber, you get the default expert rankings as what's loaded in for you. But if you are a site subscriber, of course, use promo code FSE. You can use either my rankings right here or Danny's rankings right there, or Mason's rankings, Zach's rankings, whoever else. So you can actually customize to make sure that you're drafting with our rankings. If you trust what we have to say, trust our opinion, you can definitely do that. So I'm going to grab BTJ. He's going to be my hero wide receiver. And then hopefully I can get some good running back, quarterback, tight end value to fall back to me in the next couple of rounds.
Yep. And speaking of running back value here, I could go with the Chase Brown, who I have ranked highest. And based on the expert ADP, I will not be making the same mistake of, he goes here on Underdog, so I'm going to see if he falls back. I know Chase Brown is the second highest rated player in the expert ADP, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab him. I have him ranked here. I'm comfortable taking him in the mid second, and I feel that is a good spot for Chase Brown. And back on the clock, like we said, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins. It's like realistically, we're not in the range of. I would say if any of these guys were consequential 20 plus point per game scorers, it would have to be on the back of like Jamar Chase getting hurt or Tyreek Hill, completely reverting the script and not looking like he was last year. Jackson Smith and Jigba, honestly, I just don't really see a scenario where he's like a 20 point per game scorer. I guess he would have to develop like a Monra. Marvin Harrison Jr., you would need Kyler Murray to throw 35 touchdowns more than likely. For me, I'm here, and I think the best player available for this build, you can go with Amari Hampton, you can go with a onesie. Like we said, though, the league winner hit rates at the onesies here are particularly strong at quarterback, so I'm going to give you guys in this exercise. Could be Allen or Jackson. I do have the experts do have Jackson ranked higher, but Allen is my quarterback one, so I will take him here.
Yeah, no, definitely makes a lot of sense there. Unfortunately, Amari Hampton and Breece Hall go ahead of my pick. I would have loved to have gotten one of those guys. And I'm not going to go with a quarterback for the purposes of this, or a wide receiver for the purpose of this exercise, because we are running a hero wide receiver build here. So I'll probably grab me 2 elite onesies here, because I think my best available player just overall is George Kittle. So I'm just going to grab George Kittle here.
Whatever quarterback falls.
Yeah, I could grab Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. They're my second and third highest ranked available players. I guess I could go with James Cook if I really want to. I could grab James Cook here and see how my build would kind of play out beyond this point. But can I look myself
hard
in
to
the mirror?
pass?
Can I look myself in the mirror and say that James Cook's going to be a more consequential value over replacement running back than Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts will be a consequential value over replacement quarterback? And to me, these hypermobile quarterbacks, it's just so difficult to not take them in the 4th round. Like, they're on the board in the 4th round, man. Like, it's just really hard as your 4th player on your team not to take these guys. So I'm going to grab Jaden Daniels, who is my highest ranked of the 2 quarterbacks there. And I got a guy who has a high passing ceiling, a high rushing ceiling, as we saw. That's kind of the tiebreaker for me with him and Jalen Hurts, is that he passes a little bit better and has a little bit of a higher ceiling in that regard.
For sure. My next highest rated non wide receiver here would actually be Kenneth Walker. And I do think the end of the 4th is an appropriate value for him. We do have, a 25-year-old running back under a new scheme with Clint Kubiak, a guy that fits that scheme perfectly with Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, a running back that was valued as a top 5 to 7 running back at the beginning portion of last year. I do think he's the type of running back, especially in the early portion of the year when he's healthy, you also have a ton of trade value with. So I will take him here in the 4th round. Again, exactly that hero wide receiver. I believe in Justin Jefferson, but I also like the wide receivers that would fall back to me. Now, the name I kept saying in the beginning portion of this video, in the strategy portion of this video, is, hey, I mean, why would I take T. Higgins at the 301 when I can take George Pickens at the 505? So I will grab him, my second wide receiver on this team. Would have liked to get an elite tight end here, but realistically, after those first 3 are gone, nobody I would push up the board here. So I think this is fine to eventually deviate back to the wide receiver spot here with Pickens.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is the whole point of the hero wide receiver, because we're not going to go as far as we do on like hero RB and zero RB strategies, where we're going to fade the wide receiver position till like round 8 or something like that. Because especially on Flock, where it's expert rankings and whatnot, we're not going to get exceptional values on wide receiver. You and I are not going to be walking out around 7 through 10 with Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Emeka Egbuka, and Michael Pittman Jr. Like, we're not going to get that good of values at wide receiver. So we will have to be a little bit more strategic with how we're picking these guys. I'm going to grab my second wide receiver here in Zay Flowers, who I do believe can take a big step this year. I'm fine with either of James Conner or Isaiah Pacheco, who falls back to me. And the guy picking after me has 3 running backs already, so I'm hoping he doesn't take 2 running backs in a row.
It is Nathan, though, so you can't count it out.
He is Nathan, yeah. He ends up
there it is.
He takes Mixon anyway, so I wasn't going to take. So it would be between James Conner and Isaiah Pacheco for me. I do have James Conner ranked 1 spot higher. They are really, really close for me. I go back and forth on this. I've actually flopped these guys a couple of times. And James Conner is the one that I have ranked higher, but I do have Isaiah Pacheco so close to him. But I'll roll with James Conner there and lock down my touches. I got my Achane, I got my Conner, and my hero wide receiver and Brian Thomas Jr. Again, you could have maybe faded running back or wide receiver for one more pick and taken the running back where I took Zay Flowers, but to me, I could have very easily taken James Conner there and taken Flowers with the next pick.
For sure. And obviously a playful jab. Just I know Nathan takes more running backs than I do comparatively, which, I mean, given the board and the data that we've poised, is actually not bad at all. But I am back on the clock here. I'm looking at the wide receiver board. I do see that the expert consensus does have Josh Downs kind of pushed up. And I mean, you just got to understand your league mates. If you know that Josh Downs is going to be pushed up in your respective league, and I have him ranked above even where I'm selecting him here, I'm just going to go out and take him. I think wide receiver 3, a guy that is a target earner, a guy that can separate like nobody's business. I feel comfortable taking him here as my wide receiver 3, knowing that I'm set at running back, knowing that I'm set at quarterback, and of course have my hero at the top at wide receiver. And I do think this is the range that I just want to keep attacking the wide receiver position now because I feel comfortable with the rest of my starting lineup. I don't see a discernible difference at tight end now versus maybe in a few rounds. So I'm just going to keep stacking this wide receiver talent. I'm going to take Drake May's wide receiver 1 with Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm feeling pretty good because I don't have any need to grab a tight end or a quarterback because I have two of my first 4 picks for tight end and quarterback. So I'm going to roll with my boy here. I mean, I got Shakir on the board for me. But I feel like with this build that I have Brian Thomas Jr. and Zay Flowers, and knowing I can get some safer wide receivers later, I feel like I got to swing for the fences here and take a Mecca Igbuka, and maybe
I love that.
Maybe in Shakir, and he did fall back to me, who was my technically my highest rated wide receiver on the board. So I grabbed me some Igbuka, some Shakir, and I feel like I can fill out my flex spots with those guys. Wasn't really a running back I felt like was worthy of that pick. I wasn't going to be taking a Tyrone Tracy or a Scattaboo or something like that. Once Brian Robinson went off the board, that was pretty much where I was going to be fading the running back position after that point.
There's still one running back I like here, and I will take him. I do need a running back 3. And after him, I do see kind of a drop off at the position. So I am perfectly comfortable taking my 88th ranked player here at the 808, funny enough, with Tyrone Tracy, and seeing what falls back to me at the onesie. Because like I said, a couple guys I still like. And I guess that was just the wrong thing because the FSC bot said, fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, the way that my rankings are set up, because FSC bot obviously is a combination of the two of us, and Flock League Toilet bot also includes me, unfortunately. So my rankings are set up in a way that I'm cool going 2 tight ends in this territory of the draft because I don't like investing really highly in the tight end position. So I'm cool with a Loveland and a Kraft type of setup, which is why it probably took that.
I was hoping of any of those 3 to fall, but luckily I still have a player in that tier here. You know where I'm going to be going with this pick. A guy's that's been, 20+% target share, top 4 option at the position the last 2 years. I get the offensive projection is a little murky in Cleveland, but in the 9th round, take him as a tight end off the board. I would say that's free money.
Yeah, there you go. Makes some sense. I'm going to grab me some J.K. Dobbins here because I feel pretty good about him, and I need another running back at this point in the draft here. Also probably could go for even another running back here because I do like Tajay Spears as well. So grab 2 more running backs, guys that I feel like I don't know if they're going to start, J.K. Dobbins and Tajay Spears, but I would say flip a coin. One of them probably starts for their team, just given that R.J. Harvey wasn't as high on the prospect. Excellent offense for Dobbins. Could at least start at the beginning of the year. And then Tajay Spears, I'm not as high on Tony Pollard as some seem to be. I think Spears personally is the better running back and will eventually take over that job down the stretch.
Also, can you name a draft that the Mason bot hasn't gone with 2 early quarterbacks?
Yeah, I guess Mason probably just has the QBs ranked really high.
That's what I'm assuming. I'm just joking around, but that's what I'm assuming is what's happening there. I'll take an upside shot at wide receiver. Again, I have guys that I can put into my lineup right away, but the purpose of drafting a hero is to eventually find the next wide receiver or the wide receiver 2 next to them that can give you needle moving production. And while that's a murky projection, I would say to start the year, I do really love the upside of Luther Burden as a stash option. He's my wide receiver 5, but if he does eventually enter my lineup, it'll be because he's a consequential wide receiver in an offense I believe in.
Yeah, no, definitely makes some sense there.
Yep. I was hoping maybe a Keon Coleman would have fallen back. Unfortunately, he gets sniped the pick before. Obviously, I'm mentioning that because I have Josh Allen for some of that stack equity. I just like a running back with a workload here. Tank Bigsby as an 11th round pick, I'm perfectly comfortable taking. But I will just clarify on my own board. I do also like Kyle Williams, but because I went with the wide receiver upside with Burden, I'm actually going to go with Tank Bigsby here for some touches.
Yeah, no, that makes sense there. I'm going to grab on the board. I mean, Christian, I could use another wide receiver because I only have BTJ, Zay Flowers, Emeka Egbuka, Khalil Shakir. Could go with a Christian Kirk here. Could go with a Kyle Williams here. I'll roll with Christian Kirk. Honestly, I feel like with Egbuka, maybe I'm not able to start him right away. I have no idea how that's going to play out. Chris Godwin might be on the field right at the beginning of the season. And now I'm pretty much just going to stash upside anyways, because the other thing about hero wide receiver that you and I would have probably not said a while ago is because you're going hero wide receiver, you might not be automatically starting wide receivers through the flex. Because normally it's like, yeah, when we go double hero RB, we're going to, get 4 or 5 wide receivers in the mid rounds or whatever. We're going to start wide receivers through the flex. But in hero wide receiver, you're kind of, making it known that you're okay starting maybe running backs in the flex. Like in my situation, the value that fell to me were tight end and quarterback. So I didn't grab a bunch of running backs at the beginning of the draft, but I could have hypothetically started my draft like Achane, Brees, Hampton, and had 3 running backs and started one of them in the flex there. But I end up getting the onesies instead. I'm going to roll with Dylan Sampson, an upside swing at the running back position that I can maybe use into my flex at some point.
Well, exactly. You mentioned that. Maybe, we hear Diggs a little banged up entering week 1, and I have to throw Tank Bigsby against the Carolina Panthers into my lineup. I'm perfectly comfortable throwing Bigsby in my starting lineup in week 1 if I need to in a pinch because of the matchup, because of the carry equity he represents. Like you said, you're not going to be dominant through the flexes as you would in maybe a hero RB or a zero running back of recent years because of just how strong the wide receiver projections were. But at the same time, a guy like Tank Bigsby that is having immediate touch appeal against the Carolina Panthers team, like he wouldn't be available in the 11th round in recent years, especially given the current offseason camp reports we're hearing out of Jacksonville. But I considered him on my last pick. I just think this is a screaming value. Kyle Williams, everything we're hearing out of Patriots camp has been positive right now on this guy. And I think in the 12th round, that's the perfect upside shot.
Yeah, I mean, the one pushback I'd have is that there was a period of time where we were hearing that it was Demario Douglas, Stephon Diggs, and Kayshon Boutte in the 3 wide receiver sets. So I think there's still some work that needs to be done for Kyle Williams to earn his stripes. But yeah, definitely a good upside swing.
Yeah, it is funny. Also, I have Stephon Diggs, but I just think Kyle Williams was by far the best flex projection left on the board. Could go a couple directions here. You know what? Because I went cheap at tight end 1 with a safe option, I'll take my upside. If I'm going to invest in Josh Allen, I also think the 13th round is a reasonable cost for Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid pilled. Let's go.
13th round, I'll take a shot there. Like that's reasonable enough. If he was like a 10th round pick or higher, like that's one thing. But
yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. I'm gonna grab DJ Giddens here, another upside swing at the running back position, and then maybe I'll wrap back around for an upside swing at wide receiver. And there's not a whole lot of guys that I feel great about, to be honest with you. Like I guess I could take like a Jalen Noel or something because I have Kirk. I could just kind of play the slot receiver for the Houston Texans. Honestly, there's nothing really else that I like. And I told you why I like this guy in the 15th round, the 14th round is because I feel like I know what I'll have right away. If Miles Sanders is going to be an early down ball carrier for the Cowboys, I feel like I'll know that pretty early on in the season. So I'm going to grab him there because I don't believe in Javonte Williams. I don't believe in Jaden Blue. I think Miles Sanders, guy with multiple top 24 seasons in fantasy, is the best pure runner on that team. And also the last couple of years hasn't played for a very good team. And I think he's motivated to kind of have a career resurgence with the Cowboys here.
Yeah, on the flip side, going with my upside here, my next highest rated running back would be it actually would be Rico Dowdle, but I do have Jarquez Hunter ranked 1 spot behind him. I feel confident about my touches. Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Tank Bigsby, all guys I trust to get immediate workloads. So I'll take a little bit more of the upside here if Hunter is able to carve out a big role in that Rams Sean McVay offense.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that is the end of the draft. We'll go to something that we have in the site here is we can basically grade your draft or show how good of a draft you had. I'm sorting it by my own rankings, which ironically, I mean, the FSE bot, expert bot, and FL toilet bot also include my rankings. So that's partially why I only rank at 4th here. But love the way that my team came together. Honestly, like the only thing that I wish I maybe gotten a little bit better wide receiver 3. Knowing that my 3 is like Khalil Shakir / Emeka Egbuka instead of like if it was like a Jaden Reed or something, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But that's kind of what happens when you deviate for both an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. Like I have George Kittle and Jaden Daniels, and I have no concerns whatsoever all season long about what I'm going to do at the onesies.
Yeah, and then on my team here, Josh Allen, my number 1 quarterback. I'm assuming it's going to be number 3 because maybe, the Mason bot has a Joe Burrow there. Maybe another team with like Jalen Hurts, for example, has a backup. We both have Josh Allen as our quarterback 1 there, Justin Jefferson as our hero wide receiver, and then we do build out the running backs there. I feel good about a running back room. Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter there. I do feel very good about the surrounding talent I was able to add at wide receiver.
Yeah, and you get to see 2 different angles of it. Danny goes just with the kind of elite quarterback. I go with the elite quarterback and the elite tight end to kind of showcase what it would look like. Hero wide receiver, I would say probably by the time you start hammering wide receivers again in round 5, round 6, round 7, whatever, you probably got at least 1 onesie. one elite onesie there because of what they represent, like Josh Allen on your team and Jaden Daniels and George Kittle on my team. They do represent a nice positional advantage if you're going to be weaker at wide receiver too. It's nice to be just counting on every week starter type of production from the quarterback and from the tight end spot or one of the other. And you don't want to just because there's probably people out there that are going to do hero wide receiver and go wide receiver in the first round, 3 straight running backs, or maybe even 4 straight running backs to fill out their flex. And it's like, yeah, you'd have an advantage at running back, but the league winner rate is way higher for quarterbacks in the 3rd round anyway. So you might as well just grab the elite quarterback instead of taking on a little bit of additional risk going after more running back talent if you don't need to. So that would be kind of my thought process behind that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Alrighty. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. Also check out the season pass as we made reference to, $35. August 1, Jan 1, you're covered. Draft season, in-season content, rest of season rankings, all the tools, all the mock draft sims, all the draft guides of all of the creators over on the site. And of course, make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy. You can use the promo code FSE to sign up. 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Contest for any price range. You got $3 contest, $5 contest, $10 contest, $25, $50, $75, $500, $1,000 contest. If you guys want to do some drafts to get ready for your home league, the best thing that you can do mock drafts on our mock draft simulator. That'll give you a good experience for how your redraft buddies will draft. And then you do some drafts on Underdog, because it's really fun and you could win a lot of money, $2 million up top to Best Ball Mania 6's winner. And also it'll help you, in addition to the mock draft simulator, get ready for your home leagues. You'll know where players are supposed to go. You get a bunch of drafts under your belt. Best thing is practice. That's pretty much where you're at with fantasy football. It's just like anything else. You want to get better at shooting free throws, you got to go shoot some free throws, just like the way that you'd be doing this with fantasy football drafts. So if that interests you guys, check out all that. It'll be linked down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.